Hey, and welcome to the Joie Miller Podcast. Thanks for tuning in today.
Welcome back. It's good to be here with you again, once again. I'm glad to be back here as the new host, and good to have you as a guest today.
Yeah, thank you. We are heading into part 2 of the holiday stressors that surround marital relationships. Because if you know anything about marriage, you know that the holidays are like added stress that can cause some tension within relationships with your spouse. So last time we talked about families dealing with boundaries, setting standards, operating as a unit to keep the peace during the holidays with the family members that you love so much. So today we're going to head into another couple of topics that are stressful during the holiday season, and one of those topics is finances. Dun dun dun.
Yes.
Going into finances surrounding the holiday season. Finances in general are one of the top stressors or areas of conflict and even divorce among marriages in general. So let's talk about finances and how we can eliminate or head off that financial stress that comes with the holiday season. I mean, it seems like at the holidays, everyone just wants your debit card or your money for something.
I heard that. So, so I think that when you look at it, first you start everything in marriage, you're kind of bringing your background, your upbringing, your level of whether it's spending or education on finances or your approach to finances, you're bringing that into a marriage. And many times there are two different viewpoints that quickly create conflict. And I think that it really doesn't help. The world we live in is very materialistic, very driven. And although we love to bless, the people we love, there comes a point that when we just keep spending and keep spending, it creates such a tension. And here's the problem. Because it's not just creating tension in December. What the majority of Americans do is rack up credit card debt. Now, you're not just feeling a tension in December. You're feeling an abnormal weight of tension because of the debt you've incurred, because you didn't have a plan and you don't have structure or discipline in your finances. And that is why many marriages end in divorce, because of a lack of a plan.
A lack of a plan. And so just like we talked about with family is having that conversation up front, it's so important with our finances as well. Back to premarital counseling, one of the questions we ask couples is, what are your view on finances? And everyone has the way that they've done things, especially when it comes to the holidays. Some families are super strict, like you get 3 presents because the wise men gave Jesus each one present, you get 3 presents. Others, it's like Santa Claus has an unlimited supply of money and it's magical and the room's filled with presents, And so when we got married, we had kind of a collision of this. Even though you had a very nice Christmases, I was very, very spoiled. I was basically an only child. I was the youngest of 3 girls by like 12 or 13 years. So very spoiled. And so bringing the perspective into our marriage of what does Christmas look like? What does a Christmas budget look like? How can we compromise so that I don't feel like I'm losing what I bring to the table and you feel like you're not losing what you have to bring to the table? And so, having those discussions around a holiday budget is so important. Not in the heat of the moment, but prior to the holiday season.
Yeah, I think every great relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship, there has to be communication and there has to be compromise. Because when 2 different people come in with a viewpoint, let's just use the example you gave, of a Christmas with no limits. Like, we're just going to buy until we don't know what else to buy for our kids and for our family. And it doesn't matter what we spend because Christmas morning is everything to us. Think about it. People put themselves under such an extreme amount of stress in their marriage, and that's why it ends in divorce, for literally an hour or 2 on December 25th. And the point of it is there is nothing materially that you can buy that is going to offset the stress of what your marriage is going to feel, that is worth it in the end.
What it is, it's that dopamine feeling, which is, could be related to poor financial decisions in general, that you feel that gratification of that morning. And so, it's easy to get caught up in our feelings or our selfishness and not consider the boundaries that the other person has established with finances when it comes around the holiday spending. And so, I would say a great practical way to do this is to have that conversation, to sit down and say, what do the holidays look like for us, to plan? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that is applicable to every area of your life. And so we've learned through the years, through trial and error, obviously, is to make a plan for your holiday spending so that things don't come out of the blue and then one person's disappointed, the other person's frustrated, and just fights just arise. We try to make a very specific plan going into the month. These are the activities that we would like to do. These are the areas that we want to be generous in our giving, our finances to the church, to different needs around us, that nothing should really truly take you completely off guard when it comes to your finances, that you should have a plan going into it. And so you can actually control your budget, so to say, in a way that you're still happy and nobody feels slighted when you make that plan. You can say, okay, these are the things that we want to do as a couple or as a family. This is the price ticket that goes along with that. We can either save and afford that, or we can pick a different activity, but there's communication happening. And so you're still moving forward in the things that you want to do. The same with spending. Okay, well, what does that look like? Let's look at your family. Let's look at my family. Let's look at the budgets around that. And so really finding that plan that works for you is key, so that every December you're not stressed out fighting between you because life is just horrible, right? The enemy loves to come in those moments where maybe there's a tension and make you feel like everything's bad, like you ruined Christmas, like you're Ebenezer Scrooge. What did you do? And things just blow up out of control.
Yeah, again, I think if you don't have communication and compromise, if a couple doesn't learn to compromise, where the two come together and there's some type of mixture of the approach, then it's going to inevitably, if it doesn't blow up then, it will blow up later. Because poor financial decisions, no matter what relationship, will have effect, long-term effect, on relationships in a way that break a marriage down. And so we're not meant to live under that debt. But if you look at it, the majority of Americans will go into deeper levels of debt. And it's based off of people are just wanting, it's that materialistic approach of I'm willing to even compromise they wouldn't say it like this, but I'm willing to compromise my marriage so that a couple hours on December 25th are memorable for my family. And it lacks so much wisdom and there's so much strain, and sometimes people, they won't compromise, or they won't want to talk about it in a marriage. They'll just avoid it. When you're avoiding these things, if you don't learn to communicate and compromise in the area of finances, you're just going to do what you want to do, and there's no set budget. And like you said, what a couple should be doing is, if we want to go see a play, well, for us, that's going to be a lot of money with the bigger family. So, what we have to do, though, is we have to say, all right, if this thing cost $1,000 and Christmas cost whatever, $2,000, whatever, just throwing out different numbers, then where is that extra $1,000 coming from? Because what we tend to do is we just want to do it all. We just want to do everything, but we never think of the ramifications of the financial decisions we're making until it's too late. And so, what would you say for a couple that's not communicating clearly, that's not setting a budget, and is not willing to compromise?
Yeah, I would say you're going to have a lot of stress and tension around your Christmas and even going into the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a negative burden that you carry during a season that's supposed to be fun and enjoyable, truly. And so, it takes time to get into certain rhythms with your family unit, with your spouse. Maybe you've never done a budget. Maybe you don't communicate about the holiday season. Really sitting down and having that conversation of what does the vision look like around our holidays. God wants you to communicate and set a vision for that. My husband wants me to have a great holiday season. I want him to have a great holiday season. So what does that look like? And once you start to do that, you'll get into rhythms of it. Now that we've been married for almost 25 years, Christmases in the beginning look different than Christmas now, but we're still communicating together. We're sitting down and saying, what are the things that we always do? We always go see a family show. We always go ice skating. There are things that we always do that we can now work into knowing what that is going to look like financially for our family. So having that discussion, allowing your desires and the things that you want to do to be put down on a calendar or on paper so that you can work towards those things. And I would say if you're just starting your first Christmas, you might have to give a little bit more than you normally would, but prepare for the next year going into it, saying, okay, I know that's important to you, so let's budget. Let's see if we can work that in to the budget going into the holiday season. And so I would just really say communication, planning, setting realistic expectations, and to tell you the truth, it's not even good for your children to have these outrageous Christmases. They become, there's a lack of gratitude. There's a lack of understanding of what it takes to go into it. And they just get into a mindset, a bad habit of more. In fact, I would highly suggest, spending as little as you can going into January to reset your spending and your children's expectations of we just get everything that we want during the holiday season.
I love that point, because think about what you're saying is this, and this is so true, and this is a point we miss. You, as a parent, set the expectation of how good Christmas is.
That's good.
Not your children. Not based off what they get or what they don't get. It's a shame that, many times, even as Christians, we make that moment of Christmas something that ends up being a strain because, to your point, we say if we can't have X amount of things for all of these people, then Christmas isn't going to be good. Well, shame on us, because now we've redefined Christmas as something that is based off of materialism. To be honest with you, you're the one, as a parent, I'll say it again, you determine by your choice and by your attitude how good your Christmas is going to be. You know what? There's some kids out there that's going to get one gift, and you know what? They're going to have a better Christmas than kids that get everything they ever wanted on the list, and their parents go into financial debt that cripples them the rest of the year. And by the way, they usually never correct it. They just grow in debt every year because they have this mindset, unless I get my kid everything they want, then it's not going to be a joyful Christmas, and somehow my kids are going to suffer and they're not going to have good childhood memories. Like, no, you need to get healed first. You need to get some counseling first, get that corrected, and then learned. And I'm saying this, I'm passionate about it, because too many Americans miss out, and then what happens is marriages end in divorce because we cannot get the financial piece right. And it is worse during the holidays because we put these ideas and concepts that, to your point, our kids have to have everything, and that equals a good Christmas. And that's the lie of the devil.
Yeah.
Because you made it about materialism instead of what it's really meant to be about, is love and family and celebrating like what Christ has done in our lives. It's just very much out of line to what we're called to as believers.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And, and even the whole, I'm laughing because I was raised with Santa Claus, obviously. And I don't know, were you raised with Santa Claus?
Oh, yeah.
Your grandfather dressed up like
he was
Santa and
Santa.
came over. So
We found out that when he was Santa. We're like, our grandfather's Santa.
I remember when I got saved, my mom's like, are we going to allow to celebrate Santa Claus with our children? Like, that was her main concern. She was really, really, like, just
That's kind of funny.
bothered by that. But we always took it lightly. Like, whatever, we're not going to be super legalistic about it. But we never made that the focus. It was always like a fun thing on the side. It wasn't like, oh, as Santa, and look what Santa brought you.
Let's worship him.
It was, it was kind of like just it wasn't really highlighted on Christmas morning. It was, look what mom and dad got you. So that I wanted them to understand a level of gratitude for the things that we were able to provide for them. Not that they would thank just us, but thank God together that we had the provision from him to have these things. I think, a lot of times, not that Santa himself is bad, but we should keep the focus obviously on Jesus. But
Yes.
financially, what happens is we set up our kids to ask this mythical person for all of these toys that they think there should be an endless supply of, and then as parents we feel slaves to making all of that happen. And so even from a financial perspective, keeping the main thing and making sure that their hearts are in a place of understanding and gratitude for the things that they are receiving, and keeping the main thing about Jesus. And so
And I think there's practical ways that you can do that. You and I, we started something with our kids. Like last night, we sat down, we read part of the Christmas story in the Bible, and we talked about it. And even the morning of Christmas, we wake up, the first thing we do is read the Bible, read about the coming of Christ, and we pray together. And so I think there's practical ways that you can make sure, not to sound cliche, but you keep the Christ in Christmas.
Yeah.
Because for many people, the world wants to take Christ out of Christmas. It's just in many ways seen as another secular holiday, but it's really all about Christianity.
Yeah. And, when it comes to the financial stress, another thing to do is to refocus through giving. And I would say find ways that your family can give to others during the holiday season. We become so self-consumed that we just become plain selfish during the holidays if we're not careful. And so, if you find yourself fighting about finances, if you find your family being ungrateful about the holidays, say, what is it? Okay, let's stop right now and let's say, what could we give? Whether that's serving with our time, giving financially, getting an angel off of an angel tree. What is it that we can do for others? Because the focus is in the wrong place. And you'll see that as a family unit, you just start to feel better together about refocusing around the holiday season. And so finances. And then number 3 is just another holiday stress that we are going to be talking about quickly, is just staying with the F theme, is the frenzy of the holidays, which is like the busyness of the holidays.
Yes.
It's just like a whirlwind between Christmas concerts, Christmas parties, work parties, church parties, family parties, that you can just really lose the connection with your spouse. So that marriage connection can be stressed because of the frenzy of the holiday season. Before you know it, you don't even like that person. You're like, stay away from me, got to get through the holidays. And I would say, slow down. Simplify your holiday season. Say, what is important to us as a family? Once again, it comes down to conversations, boundaries, and establishing a vision for your holiday season. And so taking time together at the end of the day, wrapping presents together, having conversations together, staying in that place of unity, not letting finances or family get a wedge in between you, but staying in a place that you're enjoying one another, that you're spending time with one another, that you're making time for a holiday date. It really alleviates the stress that comes from lack of communication and lack of spending time together during the holidays.
Yeah, you look at those top stressors, back to that, you look at it, it's a lack of intimacy that ends marriage, and it's a lack of compatibility, too much conflict and arguing, and really all of that comes through a lack of investment, of having that time with your best friend. I think there's a misconception, and I think it's I think men and women are guilty of it. But I would call out the men more even than the women. For some reason, this idea of us getting married, many times in the minds of that new couple, now we don't really have to date. The guy thinks, oh, this is a finish line. Marriage isn't a finish line. You should be dating your spouse. You should be investing into that relationship consistently. You and I do that. We take time to make sure that, whether we get away a day or we go out for a nice evening, you and I, in the midst of our busy schedule, we still date. Because if you're not investing into that relationship, think about it. Think about what you invested to get your relationship to that point where you can marry that person. And then what people naturally do is back off and completely just coast then. And you're not going to have anything great in life unless you're investing into it. Whether it comes down to your marriage or your business or whatever, your relationship with God, if you're not investing, you will not have a good return if you're not investing. And I think that's a key thing, is learning to have fun, playing together, dating together, flirting with one another, sending a text message, I love you, how's your day, whatever it is, but making sure you're making these constant, consistent investments to that person you love that God's given you.
Yeah, and to your point, those investments are made when we're feeling like we want to invest, and some of the other stresses that we talked about can get in the way of wanting to invest. If you're stressed about the holidays over finances or money, you're pushing away from that other person, and the busyness of the season doesn't help, because instead of taking time to have that difficult conversation, what are you doing? You're avoiding it like the plague, because you're like, nobody has time for this right now. Taking time to have those conversations, investing in it, whether it's, hey, let's go grab coffee and a dessert and talk about what the plan looks like for the holidays, or let's go watch a holiday movie together, just you and I, just to have that point of connection, because those investments will help the other stressors go away instead of compounding. And maybe it's, hey, instead of getting a Christmas gift for each other this year, we're going to take a weekend and go somewhere. Planning to invest in that relationship is so important, especially around the holiday season. So don't let the holidays break you. Don't let them tear you apart. Really address these stresses head on so that your marriage can grow stronger and stronger even through the holiday season. Look, crazy people, finances, busyness, you got this. Keep God in the center and keep working on your relationship together. You got this, and we can't wait to see how your relationship continues to thrive all through 2024. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.